Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan's 3-day trip to Nigeria has long since commenced, but there was a recent article from African Business that's entitled A Royal Visit with a Difference. Unlike all the royal tours which have come before, Harry and Meghan's visit to Nigeria was first and foremost rooted in themselves, rather than an institution they represent, making it perhaps the most sincere and heartfelt of all royal tours on the continent to date. The British royal family has a long and complicated relationship with the African continent, stretching back centuries, which is firmly intertwined with Britain's history of colonial rule in many African nations. Several royal visits to Nigeria followed over the years, including a tour by the former Prince and Princess of Wales in 1990. But Prince Harry and Meghan's recent visit to the West African country strikes a completely different tone, that of authenticity. Unlike Prince William and Kate Middleton's widely derided Jamaican tour in 2020, which, with its failed optics of Jamaicans cheering the royals from behind fences, led critics to accusations of colonial-style arrogance, Prince Harry and Meghan's Nigerian tour struck all the right notes. And this truly ties into what I said in the prior videos about the Nigerian trip. There is a level of authenticity and personality that Harry and Meghan bring to the trips and excursions that they do. Whether as working royals or outside of the institution, it just seems to come naturally to them. Now, Harry and Meghan's authenticity is nothing new. Long before Harry met Meghan, if you really look back at a lot of the tours that Harry would do, predominantly to Commonwealth nations, he's always had that gift. Together with Meghan now, the couple is dynamite. They just have that golden touch. But before Meghan, if you see him, he's out and about with the people, interacting with them, talking with them, laughing with them. And you can tell that when they're interacting, well, as far as I can see, it seems like they see the people as people and not subjects. As the article said, authenticity. They have it in spades. Whether you like them, you don't like them, you agree with them, you don't agree with them, Harry and Meghan will say what they say and do what they do and stand 10 toes deep in it, irregardless of what anyone else thinks. Authenticity. Now, you would think with all of the latest developments about Kate Middleton possibly not being seen for the remainder of the year, that Kensington Palace and Prince William would have other more important things to be focused on. But this week I felt like there have been a lot of articles. Now, of course, there is a possibility that these royal experts and commentators are just pulling things out of their butt. It is possible. Articles that I found particularly funny. One said that Prince William feels like a spare as Harry and Meghan use outcast status to win back global dominance. So, in the spare versus heir dynamic, the spare is the undesirable player of the two, right? It's the backup to the heir. And once the heir produces the future heir, the spare is sort of just left hanging in the breeze, truly dependent on the whims of the heir or monarch. You know, you have Anne and Edward and even Andrew, who are dependent on the whims of their brother Charles. He will be responsible for determining where they live, the work that they do, essentially in control of their lives. He sends them wherever he needs them to go to represent him, to represent the crown. And I feel like this has been a part of why William seems to be so obsessed with Harry and so angry that Harry left. Harry is no longer under his control. And imagine how worse it would be when he becomes the monarch. Then Harry would be completely dependent on William and his whims to feed and take care of his family. He will have to go where William wanted him to go, do what William wanted him to do, in the way that William wants him to do it, right? By Harry leaving with Meghan and flourishing outside of the palace, outside of William's grasp, That throws William into a frenzy because now he no longer has control over Harry, and he can't continue to use Harry in the same way that he used him before. Hey, you're gonna be my shield, you're gonna be my backup, you're gonna go out to the Commonwealth nations, go on all these tours, do all the work while I sort of laid back and relaxed with Kate and, you know, procreate and do all of that. Harry was out there in the military. Harry was out there going on all of these tours, while William and Kate were essentially part-time working royals. Now Harry is out there, and even though that they have tried to sabotage just about everything that Harry and Meghan say or do, they're still thriving. They're still being received in the very same way, but now they're doing it under their own foundations, in their own way, and they have complete control over their lives. And this vexes William. So this is why I thought that him, or the part of him feeling like a spare, was interesting to me. You were happy for Harry to play that role, right? The undesirable, the backup. But now that Harry is living his own life in his own way and is doing a good job of it, you're vexed. Why is that?
Speaking about Meghan and Harry are interesting. Do you think that Meghan and Harry possess the characteristics that are needed in order to modernise the royal family a bit?
I mean, they certainly do. You can just look at these pictures from Nigeria and you can see that they have that stardust, they have, you know, the glamour, they have the common touch, you know, being able to talk to people. Like Henry was saying, I would just pick up on what Henry was slightly being critical, saying, you know, Meghan's got something that, you know, Catherine, Princess of Wales, hasn't got. I would disagree with that. I think that Catherine has got, you know, great capabilities. One thing to bear in mind, though, is, of course, Catherine has been learning on the job. Yeah. She left university and has pretty much been immersed in this. You know, she certainly struggled with public speaking. We know that. She got incredibly nervous. Yeah. It took her many, many years, and she took it very, very slowly. You've got Meghan, who came in from an acting career with all the confidence and as a grown-up adult woman. And I think you're comparing...
that she's bringing that Kate doesn't, and she's got that confidence, she's got that ability. And
I think Kate, though, has learnt it now, but Meghan came as the full package.
Sure, I agree the histories are different, but as you said before, we are where we are, and I'm just looking at the two of them. I've never been to an event where Catherine or Kate has spoken without note. But I mean, having seen a number of speeches where Meghan has, and where you have to actually connect with your audience, and I thought to myself, this is something that is valuable.
I'm trying to, because I suppose there is a difference between Kate and Meghan, and I'm trying to bring in my head what that difference is. Is it that when you are a formal royal or a traditional royal, you have a lack of ability to show personality? You probably have a great personality behind the scenes, an absolute laugh a minute, but you're not really allowed to show that because there'll be controversy to everything that you say. Meghan may have brought more personality because she didn't feel as
and she was criticised for that totally unfairly at the beginning. You know, people were saying, oh, you know, she's so big for her boots and she's a diva and all this thing. And actually my interpretation was, no, she's a successful woman who's not used to being sort of, as she would put it, silenced and bossed about. So there was an issue at the beginning of how she fitted in, and I do think that could have been worked through.
Yep.
The priorities within that family never ceases to amaze me. Because I don't, for the life of me, understand why people within the palace or why people within the UK press are so focused on Harry and Meghan. You have two members of your beloved royal family that are down for the count. Why are you focused on two people who live in an entirely different continent? It's a sickness. Initially, right after the Nigerian trip, Harry said that it is hugely important for us, him and Meghan obviously, to meet directly with people, supporting our causes and listening in order to bring about solutions, support, and positive change. There's only so much one can do from home and over Zoom, so we look forward to traveling more because the work matters. Whether it's the Archwell Foundation, Invictus, or any of our other causes, there will always be reasons to meet the people at the heart of our work. And there you have it. Good for Prince Harry. And am I the only one who feel like he's just gotten a lot better at crafting his responses and seem to be a lot more at ease while public speaking? Good for you. So I don't know about you guys, but I am looking forward to seeing what Harry and Meghan has to offer for the rest of 2024. We know that he's working on his polo show. Meghan's working on her show that will be sort of connected to the release of her brand. Collectively, they have that adaptation of that novel that will also be on Netflix. So there's a lot They're juggling a lot, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm not surprised regarding the allegations surrounding these two, and let me explain why. This man right here is the father of Queen Elizabeth II, and he was never meant to become king. He became king because his older brother abdicated, and his older brother did this for this lady right here. He did it for love. This lady was an American socialite. She was not getting accepted in British society. So man said, "Bon, you and the crown, I'm out." He turned his back on his country for love. Let's move down to the next generation. This right here is Princess Margaret, and she is the younger sister to Queen Elizabeth II. And throughout her life, she was basically ridiculed by British tabloids and British people for the people she chose to love and choose to marry. Let's move on to the next generation. We have King Charles, who is the eldest son to Queen Elizabeth, who was forcefully glued to a woman who he did not love. That being Diana, the people's princess that we all love up until this day. Believe it or not, he was actually in love with the king's consort, Miss Camilla right here. And in the end, this innocent woman lost her life because of who she chose to love. And this lady, whether we like her or not, got ridiculed in the British tabloids and by the British people because the king chose her. Let's move to the next generation. Here we have Harry, the youngest child to Princess Diana and King Charles, basically one of Queen Elizabeth II's grandchildren, and he walked away from his family, being the royal family. And just like his great-grand-uncle, he walked away from his family, being the royal family, for this beautiful American woman. He did it for love. What I'm basically trying to say is when partners are being chosen for members of the British royal family, they get chosen based on what is acceptable and not what is suitable based on human feelings. This woman was probably bred and raised to marry this man, and he probably had no choice. He had to pick her. So what did you lot think was really going to happen? Put simply, let these people love who they want to love, apart from Andrew. Good night.
Meanwhile, there were recent photos of former Prime Minister Tony Blair visiting Abuja. Did we hear anyone in the UK press talking about how unworthy Nigeria is, how unsafe it is? No. Harry and Meghan visit Nigeria. Members of the press drag Nigeria through the mud, saying all sorts of horrible things about that nation and the people within it. But your former Prime Minister is there. Crickets. The hypocrisy. And in other news, Jamaica is on track to remove the British monarch as its head of state by 2025.
The bill for an act to amend Section 61 of the Constitution of Jamaica was passed in the House of Representatives yesterday. It will go to the Senate. It is a historic step on the road to republic. It, in fact, constitutes the first legislative step in the process of achieving a constitution enacted by the Parliament of Jamaica, approved by the people of Jamaica. So, when the substantive bill is brought to the Parliament for the establishment of the Republic of Jamaica, it will have the authority of the Parliament and the people of Jamaica.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how the now extinct Queen Elizabeth II, she kept up that royal charade for 7 decades, faithfully, to her credit. And as soon as she expired and Charles became king, it took less than 2 years for that shit to start crumbling. Like, Charles is dying from cancer. Kate Middleton, her ass ain't been seen in public for like 2 months now, and streets is saying she's trying to leave William. She's sending fake and doctor photos to the press. Harry ain't even in the UK no more. He's in America with Meghan. Like, I'm not personally invested in the royal family, but at the same time, watching the mess go down is funny to me. Like, because I just know that Elizabeth's looking up, just mad as hell, watching the family destroy everything she built. And I know that Diana is looking down, just kikiing and laughing. And she's like, that's what y'all bitches deserve.
The press has even started to recycle the same old Balmoral invitation stories that they do every single year for the past 4 years. Good Lord, make it stop.
Okay, yesterday they said that King Charles was going to be stripping or was contemplating stripping Meghan and Harry of their titles. Oh my God. Today's news is King Charles wants Prince Harry and Meghan to be a part of Balmoral trip, experts say. Every year, King Charles invites royal family members to Balmoral for a traditional summer visit. But yesterday, he was going to strip them of their titles. That is what every news outlet, from the Daily Fail to GB News, People Magazine even, every single gutter press posted that yesterday. But here we go. Again today, King Charles will invite Harry and Meghan to Balmoral, but Camilla is dreading it. Dreading it. I don't know about you guys, but what side, like which story are they going to choose next? It says King Charles will invite Harry and Meghan, but Camilla's dreading it. Members of the royal family often spend the summer at Balmoral in Scotland, and one royal expert believes Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could be invited to join them. But yesterday, they were going to get their titles stripped. They don't know what the hell they want to do over there on the Delulu land of the UK media, do they? I just find this so crazy. They are literally, like I say, my verse is saying scrambling eggs, throwing it in a basket, and see which one's going to get the best clicks. I don't see this happening. But anyway, alrighty then. Have a good day.
And the scrambling of headlines continues with Kate Middleton as well. Remember the last video we talked about the announcement that she's unlikely to be seen for the rest of the year. And then there were articles saying that she's been cited, but no videos, no photos, no specifics. It's sounding really familiar, like we've been down this road before. Whenever people on the internet are beginning to be suspicious again over the inconsistencies, then we'll have a flurry of articles saying, oh yeah, she's good, she's out and about. But then they soon realize, people are like, well, if she's healthy enough to be out and about shopping, wouldn't she be healthy enough to attend to her royal engagements? Why are we being told that she's not going to be seen for the rest of 2024? Again, the math ain't mathin'. I need these people to pick a lane and stick to it.
Well, hello, it's May 28th, 2024, exactly 5 months since the convoy was seen leaving Sandringham, and exactly 5 months and 3 days since this woman was last seen in public. And today we have a slew of news articles saying Kate has been out and about. Not seen out and about, been out and about. Because somehow, for the most photographed woman in the world, there's just not one photo that can be taken of this woman. But to answer this question, what is not normal? What is this absurd obsession with a woman who is being treated for cancer, who isn't even a citizen of the US? Some people just care about all women. They care about any woman who goes missing, including this one. People are asking questions again, so today is the day when the press starts bringing out lots of articles that are actually intended to confuse the public, like this one from today. Kate Middleton and Prince William seen in new photo after surprise B&B stay last year. Last year as in a year and a month ago. April 28th, 2023. This is the new photo they've been able to find. Now, if Princess Kate is well enough to be out and about, as the press says, then she's well enough to wave from a balcony.
So out and about above to a completely different headline with the same content below. Why did it have to change? Let's explore it together. So at 7:51, this was the version of the article that was posted yesterday. At 9:29, a couple of hours later, it was changed to this. Why did Kensington Palace force the Daily Mail to change the headline? A, there's no evidence that Kate's been out and about. We all know that. No CCTV, no photos, no official statement by the royal family or Kensington Palace. B, the royal family have backed themselves into a corner so badly, using the worst strategy ever, that if Kate was out and about, people would start to say, well, why can't she do other stuff? If she's well enough to be out and about, why is she not well enough to do a video update? Why is she not well enough to be seen in public? Why? The strategy deployed by the royal family to cover Kate's awful illness, if we believe what's been printed, has been so poor that whatever the royal family do now, they can't do right. because whatever they do, whatever path they choose to take on the PR train going forward, they're going to be called out for things that have happened in the past.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've really been enjoying the discourse surrounding the first official portrait of King Charles. Now, of course, some interpretations have been rather on the nose, some very comical, some a little crass, but many have been very interesting, very thought-provoking, particularly amongst the art enthusiasts.
Girl who went to art school and also loves to gossip, I desperately need to talk about the King Charles portrait. This is the portrait of King Charles that was unveiled this past week. It was commissioned by the royal family and it's the first portrait of him since his coronation. As you might notice, and as so many people have pointed out, this background is certainly a choice. It feels like very fiery. It feels like a lot of people have been joking that he's in hell. And I just want to say, as someone who studied art and studied art history, this is intentional. And this is truly brilliant, plausibly deniable shade about the royal family from the artists who rendered this. Red is such an intentional choice for this background because within art history, red can both symbolize energy, passion, love, and it can also symbolize anger, violence. And of course, we also can't forget the symbolism with red as far as like hell, blood, suffering, war, crimes against humanity, plausible deniability. What's interesting here is not only the way that this is like such a bright, jarring color, but also the way in which the background is painted with this very visible brushiness that almost comes into the figure, which makes it look like he is disappearing into the background or fading into this hellscape, which I think is such interesting symbolism, especially for a man who is inarguably at the end of his life, given his age. It's almost as if to say that all of these insignia, all of these accomplishments here that the royal family clearly wanted to highlight by asking for him to be depicted wearing this army regalia, but it's almost as if they're saying that this man at the end of his life will not be remembered for the things that he wants to be remembered for, like these military accomplishments, and instead he's going to be remembered for this violence. With that tension between how the royal family presents themselves versus what they will be remembered for, according to this artist, allegedly, plausible deniability on behalf of this artist, it's interesting how the face is almost over-rendered. You can tell that there's like extreme attention to detail. Every wrinkle on his face is almost over-articulated in a way that it almost comes across eerie. It's almost like an uncanny valley sort of a feeling, especially when you compare that to the almost outline that you get from his body. And again, if you think about how like royalty and how famous people are depicted in portraits throughout history, you often just get a bust. And it's like they're calling additional attention to that. Like, yes, your face might be remembered as a bust, but when we think about your legacy and the way that you're remembered throughout history, it's all the rest of this. One final thing to call out here is this butterfly here. I find it very interesting that it is hovering near his shoulder, but not quite touching it. And again, the butterfly is depicted with that same kind of hyper-realistic rendering that we see in his face and on his hands. And it's interesting that the butterfly is hovering near his shoulder, but not quite touching it. The artist said that this is supposed to be symbolism of some of the environmental initiatives that this man has had throughout his life, but I just find it interesting that a butterfly is a symbolism of hope and rebirth, and it's near him but not touching him, almost as if to say that this man doesn't deserve to be touched by this humanity.
I think this is an absolutely beautiful portrait, and I've been thinking about it all week, and I wanted to talk about it. I also think this is a form of protest. One of the most interesting things about this portrait is the way that the British media has sort of been discussing it, because it's so very obvious what the meaning here is, but no one's allowed to say it. And I think this was a brilliant tactic of the artist to do it this way, because I love seeing someone get their karma in exactly the way that they sort of distribute it, right? Like, the British royal family operates in a very shadowy way, and none of the things that they do can be pinned down, and nothing in this portrait that's derogatory can actually really be pinned down. But I don't think I've ever seen a face that has this well done, because it conveys so much emotion and it is so layered with the idea of who the person is. There is an evil here that's very apparent, a certain amusement, and a little sliver of kindness, which I find very interesting. There's compassion in the face as well. Now, anyways, back to the overall. Obviously, everyone's saying he looks like he's in hell. He looks like he's on fire. Absolutely. but I wanted to get into the details of this. First of all, there's a light spot by his head over on that one side. Do you see that? And where the butterfly is coming in. To me, this infers that there is another place behind him where he could be, but he chooses to be right here in this space. Also, all of the insignia on his chest, you can no longer see what it signifies because it's all muted in this red, which I think was a tactic to sort of downplay the accomplishments of this man, actually. Because insignia is sort of by rank, right? And you can't tell the rank of any of these things, and you don't know what they're for. It's like Boy Scout patches, but there's nothing to decipher what they are. And it sort of brings up the question subtly of how important these things are and what his accomplishments have been, like plundering entire societies. Like, are these good badges to have or bad ones? And I think that the covering of this to wash kind of like makes a joke of those, you know, medals. This butterfly is the only thing that saves this artist because it creates a plausible deniability about this entire portrait, right? Because the sort of evil elements are all there. The thing about this portrait too, if this was done hundreds of years ago, this artist would be sent to the tower and within a few days probably. Because this is clearly not a flattering rendering of this character. Also, one of my favorite books of all time is a book called A Picture of Dorian Gray. If you're not familiar with it, it's by Oscar Wilde. It's about a character who is really, really beautiful in his youth. He's charismatic, and this artist does a portrait of him in the, you know, the height of his beauty and his purity as well. But as this aristocratic man gets older, he becomes more and more violent and dangerous, and he starts committing the worst acts that a human can possibly do in their lives. And none of it shows on him physically in reality. The portrait itself takes on the caricature of him. So somewhere in an attic, that portrait is becoming the grotesque version of the soul that lives within it. And this portrait vaguely, somehow to me, references that book. I can't quite pin that down. Oh, and back to the point about them talking about this butterfly. I could not find the clip of him talking about it, but Charles says, oh, you know, sometimes you're in the garden and the butterfly will land on your shoulders. And I thought this was a very interesting moment. And like I said, I wish I could have found it for you. We all know animals are attracted to good energy, and this man has spent thousands, probably hundreds of hours in these like beautiful gardens where he's surrounded by butterflies, and for him to say they sometimes come up to you, like anyone who's sat in a butterfly garden knows that they always come up to you. So it almost revealed to me that he radiates this really dark energy. Also, when he pulls the cloak off of the portrait, he is very clearly shocked by it, although he has seen a preview of it before, which they talk about. Now this could be because he doesn't do anything himself. I've seen him get mad at people like not opening his pen cap for him, so that could be that. But to me, it's a very marked reaction of like, oh my gosh. Because it also looks like that Ghostbusters portrait. If you're not from the 80s, you won't know what I'm talking about. Very much this. All right, now to get too real about this butterfly. A butterfly is a symbol of beauty that's sort of fleeting, right? The ephemeral, but it's also an incredibly delicate animal. And though he looks like he's in hell, you would never imagine a butterfly could make it through hell, but just the heat would like singe its wings, right? But this butterfly is coming in for a landing, and you can tell that it's going to land on him. And because of the symbol of this, I actually cried when I thought about this. I feel like this butterfly is humanity, and it's still going to land no matter what. No matter what it's put through, it is going to land. It has no fear. It's like a symbol of love to me. And what I was saying about the clip was Prince Charles seemed in the clip to be someone, when he talked about this butterfly, who was unloved. And he was also sort of suspiciously sussing out the artist, right? Because they're in front of a room full of people. He was just trying to find some sort of positive spot of this. I also want you to know he's carrying a sword there, something he has never had to use and will never have to use in his life. I also just love the way that he has mixed this sort of idea of passion and aggression and put this very gentle face with it. Because it's exactly what the British royal family is about, right? It's this intense violence just with this face of a placid self-satisfaction, I would call it. That's what it is. This face is very self-satisfied. And lastly, and I think this portrait itself is a revolutionary act, in my opinion. And mind you, this is his first portrait since his coronation, so it's almost a threat in a way of like, are you going to continue? And it's very much a place marker of like where we're at in the world, and I think it's so perfect. And I think this is something that's really valuable to the royal family because it marks a very distinct change in their position in the world, and that in fact like they are entering some sort of new era. Is it good for them or not? But he seems fine. He's not worried about it, which I think is perfect. Oh, the Kendrick Lamar thing, sorry, I brought up because it's almost like the artist finessed the royal family, but he has done lots of their other portraits and none of them have been anything like this whatsoever. They've just been simple portraits of people in their basic environment. So this is very much a departure, and it's very clear that he wanted to send a message with this, in my opinion. And then we have this quote down here. He said it highlights the king's environmental causes. So he's highlighted the king's environmental causes, but covered everything else that he has here on his chest. So I think it's beautiful.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.